Hey everybody, this is Stephen Sharif with Intrepid Studios, coming to you live from our studios here in San Diego, California for our regularly scheduled streaming sessions that we have on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 3 p.m. Pacific time. I'm joined with Jeffrey Bard, lead designer here at Intrepid Studios on Ashes of Creation.
Hi everybody, good to see you.
And we have our community manager, Jennifer Bridges.
I like ponies.
We also have a guest star with us today. Deltias Gaming is here.
There's something wrong with the audio. People are saying it's hurting their ears and they're crying because they're whining.
I think it's because Stephen is yelling.
Am I yelling?
You're
I'm sorry.
yelling.
I don't mean to yell. I'm just very excited.
Okay, is that better, guys?
Turn the audio down just a little bit.
Yeah, is that better? Okay, they said that's good.
Cool. Deltias Gaming, welcome to our stream. We're excited to have you here. I know you've got some fun questions for us. We're going to do a live Q&A with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and congratulations on the Kickstarter success. It's rocking. Really excited.
We're having a pretty awesome time with that Kickstarter.
I'm out of my mind right now.
I want the group mounts.
Group
mounts.
We're on our way there, man.
The group mounts are incoming. I think we'll probably reach that maybe tomorrow.
Got my fingers crossed.
And the puppies and kitties.
We've seen some pretty awesome support from the community, honestly, with our Kickstarter. And everybody here at Intrepid Studios couldn't possibly be any more grateful for the support that everybody's showing us. It really helps us to realize just what type of chord we've struck, we've resonated with out there in the MMORPG community for this type of game to come out, and it makes us really, really happy to see that.
It lets me know that this is the project that we should be working on. So
absolutely, and it helps that all of us here are some pretty big MMORPG players ourselves. So I mean, this is the game we've always dreamed of playing, and we're pretty excited to build it. So so let's I know we have
Let's Deltia, can you explain a bit about what you do and your stream and sort of what got you interested in Ashes of Creation?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been playing MMOs since Ultima Online, and honestly, I feel like they've regressed in some aspects.
Definitely.
You know, back in the day, Ultima Online, EverQuest, you had really sandbox elements, and players really impacted the game. The best stories I can remember from any MMO wasn't a quest, it wasn't a dungeon, it was players. And that's what I miss about the game. And I kept reading about this game. I left Elder Scrolls Online content creation wise, and people kept telling me about it. I'm like, all right, I'll check this out. So I started checking it out. I'm like, this looks like Ultima Online meets EverQuest meets Star Wars Galaxies. And and the thing that got me fired up about it is that the world is malleable. Like, the world changes, and that players, guilds, and there is no factions. Like, you make your own factions. You know, all of us are talking in Discord about, you know, let's get together and get this server and dominate it, and we'll have this huge keep. And that's what MMOs are about, right? It's massive multiplayer. It's not solo player. And I think that, you know, the games nowadays, they're so theme park where you go do a dungeon for 8 hours over and over and over to get a sword. That's not fun to me. You know, it's being involved in the larger community, and I think like giving players incentives to get together, work towards something is what got me fired up about Ashes of Creation. So,
boy, I think that is exactly the message we were trying to send.
I mean, when you said the best stories are the stories of the players, that's where I come from. I mean, we can tell stories all day long about all the cool things we've done. And that's what we're trying to create here, is a place where those stories naturally happen.
Right. Yeah, that's a huge part of what Ashes of Creation aims to be, is something that allows the players to create their own narrative and really choose your own adventure and create that story with your friends and stuff. Yeah. 100%.
So you have the 4-pillar system. You briefly touched on the Kickstarter. What is that necessarily? I know it's like the nodes, trade, your classes and balance and that sort of thing. What else is in the 4 pillars?
So the 4 pillars are kind of like our core philosophy. So whenever we're talking about any system that we're designing, you know, over on our whiteboards or whatever, we always try to loop those back to the 4 pillars, right? Does it help them? Does it hurt them? And make our decisions based on that relationship. And the 4 pillars are economy, nodes, meaningful conflict, and narrative.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if it doesn't help one of those 4 pillars, then we don't use it.
Okay, so more questions on that. Now, basically, what really sparked some interest in me is the way trade looks like it's working, where I'm not a fan of the global auction house system, and obviously you're not either, and that the caravans are going to like somewhat carry goods to other towns that players control and run, and that can actually be a PvP element, right? Is that a core? Tell us about the trade system and how it differs than like current MMOs.
Well, first, I just wanted to sort of relate how this affects the 4 pillars, right? Caravans are core to the economy. They come out of that pillar. But then they also touch the other 3 pillars, right? They don't exist without nodes. They don't exist without the economy. They don't exist without conflict. And then they relate to the overall story of the server.
Right, and another portion of trade and how it interacts with the players is that nothing has meaning without risk, in my opinion. If something doesn't include, if you don't have a reward and risk relationship, there's really nothing there to keep the player interested and involved. So our trade mechanics work around these regional marketplaces, these regional zones, and the transit of goods is required to progress in certain systems. They're required to create certain things. So players are responsible for taking the goods that they've collected, the resources they've gathered, and processing them and moving them around the world in order to create certain achievements that they may want to create gear with, that they may want to progress their artisan class with. And as players are doing that, there is a reciprocal relationship with the creators and the destroyers, so to speak. I mean, there's that essence of people, the essence of those 2 things in everybody, right? And we want there to be a relationship between those 2 things that equate to a risk versus reward situation. Yeah.
Yeah, I can just imagine like a whole fleet of my little nuggets, like 20 deep, rolling up on a caravan, nuking it, taking all the treasure. I mean, that sounds awesome. Now, about the separation of PvE and PvP. So other games have done it where they had a specific stat. They had PvE gear. They had PvP gear. Now, what I like is when a game, basically they have all the elements tie into each other, but I don't have to do PvE dungeons for 8 hours to get a sword that I would use in PvP. How does your game separate PvE and PvP, or how does it put it together?
So that's a tough question because there's a lot of balance involved in that. But the way we're approaching it now, normally the issue is that monsters tend to scale faster than players, right? You have boss monsters that have millions of HP, and you have another player who might have 10,000, right? How do you balance for those differentiation, sorry, that's a terrible word. How do you differentiate between the HP of those two groups, right? But our goal is to make sure that they're transparent, right? That the gear that you're using for PvE is the gear you're using for PvP, and vice versa. So it's going to be a lot of back-end work to make that function the way we want it to. But yeah, we don't want people to have separate gear sets for PvP or PvE. Yeah. We want the sets to reflect what kind of a player you are, right? So that's the direction we're going. Like, are you a dodgy ninja-y character, or are you big, slow tank? That's what you should be gearing for, not I'm going to go fight this monster over here and this player over here. In an open world PvP game, that's not going to work really well.
What about that fast tank?
I'm going to be a tank cleric, by the way. I'm going to heal tank it and be awesome. So anyways.
There you go.
Now, the node system, that's another thing that you guys talked about a lot. Now, when you say node, is essentially what that is a region and a zone that you build up. Is that right?
So a node is really, excuse me, is a central point within a zone of influence, right? And these nodes exist all throughout the world, and they're constantly collecting the activity of players, whether it be questing, whether it be grinding mobs, whether it be collecting resources and materials. These nodes are collecting all the activities of the players around them. And as they do collect this activity, they advance in stages. And an advancement might look like from nothing into a few NPCs gathering around that node. It might become then a camp or a village, a town, a city, a metropolis. And at every single stage, it unlocks new content for the players to go and explore, for quests to open up, for services to be rendered. It allows for housing to be developed within the zone of influence or within the node itself. It allows for player-run governments for that node, and that node can have political situations with other nodes around it. They fall under the purview of castles. It's really a very intrinsic aspect of the game that relates to the player's development of the world itself. You know, a lot of theme park games, you come into it and there are these rides that you must go to from city to city that are already predetermined and pre-developed. What we wanted to do was include those rides, but we wanted to be a choose your own adventure where you're actually developing which rides you're going to experience, and then at the same time you're making your own rides with the interaction between players in an open world non-faction based game. So you know, that was kind of the dream aspect of this creation, this Ashes of Creation, was that we wanted players to really be able to drive the narrative and their experiences, but have the tools available to them to experience that content.
Okay, cool. Now in the meat and potatoes, combat. So I saw some of the pre-alpha videos, and you know, there's kind of, today modern day MMOs, there's a couple different ways to play them, right? You have the global cooldown, you know, 1.5 seconds with 30 skills, and you got your quick slots everywhere. And then you have like some of the action, like Elder Scrolls Online, where you're limited in skills, Guild Wars. Is your game a balance between that, or is it like a global cooldown? Like, how is it going to work in terms of combat?
So yes. We don't want 30 abilities on your bar, right? We want it to be contained.
Yeah.
We want tactics to matter. We want strategy to matter. And you can't do that when you're just clicking on frickin' everything. So having a contained bar that has a contained number of skills, and we haven't really dialed down exactly what the good point on that is, but it's definitely going to be contained.
It's not 30.
No, it's not going to be 30. No, there will be like probably exceptional reactives and stuff that you use in response to what's going on, and those might be ancillary that add to your bar, but it's not going to be 30.
Yeah, and most importantly, it's like, you know, our class system relates to a primary and a secondary class that you choose from 8 archetypes. So when you first get into the game and you're choosing your adventuring class, you're going to choose from one of those 8 archetypes that include 4 martial classes, 4 arcane classes. And as you develop that, you're going to have a chance to choose again from those 8 archetypes, either doubling down on the direction you've chosen or incorporating some elements of another class. And those elements include augmenting your original skills, not adding additional skills, but augmenting those original skills that you chose as your primary class with a flavor from your secondary class. So we gave a good example, I think, a little while ago when we spoke about how a fighter has a rush ability where they'll, you know, have a target and they'll be rushing towards that target, and upon impact will deal X damage and then potentially a condition modifier like a stun or a trip or something. Let's say that fighter were to choose Mage as his secondary class, and he would have a range of options of augments that he could apply to that rush skill. One of those options would be the teleport augment, where a mage is versatile in teleportation and mobility on the battlefield. Well, he could apply that teleport augment to his rush skill, where now instead of initiating that rush, he would teleport immediately to the target and then deal X damage and potentially a condition modifier, therefore eliminating that time to impact and potential to be, you know, crowd controlled or whatever, damage to himself. So we want players to have a lot of versatility in customizing their class to represent how they play and getting a little bit of flavor from the other archetypes with their primary class.
Yeah, that also, when we talk about a contained bar, it's not that you're not going to have a lot of choices. You're going to be able to build your character with the active skills that you want, and you're not going to be able to have everything, right? That's where the containment comes from. So one fighter will be different from another fighter based on what their actives are.
Well, with that being said, you talk about customization and having flavor. Now, is that going to be every class has the ability to heal themselves, tank, or would you have to pick, like, let's say, if I pick a tank and I wanted to be able to heal myself, I had to pick a cleric as my secondary class, or is that a possibility for each class?
In that scenario, you would be a paladin, because you'd be a tank primary with a cleric secondary, so your official class would be paladin. And obviously we have some core intrinsic abilities that should be inherent only to the primary class, obviously, like being able to heal other party members or being able to cast a fireball. Those are intrinsic to certain primary classes, so they may not be accessible in their full form when dealing with augments in your secondary class, but there will be remnants of what those classes mean that you can flavor your skills with. So a paladin might be able to, do some sort of self-heal and recovery with one of their primary skill abilities, but they wouldn't be able to perform the role of a healer in a party, because that would be reserved for the healer primary class.
Okay, so the secondary class is really just the flavor to add to some of your abilities. So there'll be a lot of combinations then, isn't there?
Yeah, 64.
Yes, that's true.
I can't math.
Yeah, so when we talk about our archetypes, right, that's kind of the role that you're going to take. And you can take that role and you can hybridize it a little bit, or you can double down and just become that pure DPS class if you want to. The hybridization will be limited based on what class you choose.
Right.
Now, can you respec that, or like is your primary, that's your character, and then you can respec your secondary, or how does that work?
So we're still discussing a little bit about the primary, but we feel that the secondary is likely going to include some options for respecing.
Yeah, we want people to explore it.
Right,
and,
exactly.
Yeah, because I'm sure I'll screw up 5 different classes and have to re-roll a bunch of them.
And that's no fun, right? Like, that's not a fun experience.
It is for your opponent.
It is for your opponent.
No.
Now, what do you think about pay to win? Because I know that in your Kickstarter it said no pay to win, like the title. So, what do you think about that? And are you going to have a cash shop that you can earn extra money for a business because it's for profit, but also not affect the player's experience with
absolutely.
cash items?
So I feel like that's one of the unique perspectives of Intrepid Studios as a company. Myself, coming from the background of being an MMORPG player first and then becoming a developer, really gave me certain feelings that I have pretty strong reservations on in regards to how the industry's moved more towards a monetization process that relies on pay-to-win mechanics and cash grab. Really, I'm not a fan of that at all, and Ashes of Creation will not experience that to any degree whatsoever. And I can't be more emphatic on that point, because for me, competitiveness in a closed system that an MMORPG should be relatable to an individual, a player's progress within that game on their own accord, on their own skill and or activity. And I think that the monetization practices in the industry lately of cash grabbing and pay to win have just done a major disservice to what our genre should deserve.
And I also think that it's not a good long-term solution, right? At least for the health of the game. It'll get you some money real quick, but over the long term, that's going to die off because it hurts the game. And that's not what we want. We want a long-term game that has a population that's happy with what's going on. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And I'm the first to admit, hey, it's a business. Y'all need to make money. But at the same time, when you hurt the integrity of the game, there's nothing like logging into a game and knowing that, you could just buy your power and all those things that you earned and do. So I want to applaud that and also say, please stick by that, because you can see from the Kickstarter support that there's so many people that are hungry for that old school type of MMO feeling, a subscription-based program, that, hey, I'll give you $15 because I'm going to get tons of entertainment value for that. So good job on that.
We're sticking to that.
Stick to the guns, yeah.
We're glad you like it.
So that's pretty much the main questions that I had for you guys. I appreciate taking the time out to let me talk to you, and I'm going to spread the word about Ashes of Creation. Now, what about like alphas and betas? Are we going to expect any of that within this year, next year? What you got a timetable for that?
So we have planned for the end of the year our friends and family invite-only alpha. And we're aiming to have, obviously, as early as possible within next year, access to our first closed alpha. I believe we have the expected date on the Kickstarter is December of 2018.
Right.
Right.
But obviously, we're working towards making that as earlier as possible.
Yeah, earlier if we can. We wanted to make sure we had enough room to make the alpha experience good. It's not going to be complete. It's definitely
Right.
going to be an alpha.
Yes.
But we wanted to give ourselves enough time to make sure it's playable and fun in what we're able to present.
Well, the Unreal 4 engine looks amazing so far, so I'm glad
It's been good to us, man.
Yes.
you got that. Now, okay, one more question. As far as Unreal 4 engine and PvP, large scale PvP. So some games, Warhammer Online, for instance, had their regions, whatever you want to call it, was instance based. So you had to experience a loading screen going from one to the other. You got the node system here. How does the Unreal 4 engine perform with open world PvP and PvE going on? Is it going to be 5 players in the area, 200? Like, what's the performance like that you've experienced internally? Have you seen anything?
So one of the greatest aspects of Unreal 4 as an engine is that we have the ability as developers to really access the source code on the back end of that development, to put in our own proprietary networking code that's going to achieve what we want to achieve when it comes to mass PvP and combat in the open world. Ashes of Creation is designed to have that mass PvP in the open world. There's no instances. While we will have some arenas that are instances, we're going to have massive castle sieges, and we're going to have massive sieges against nodes, and there's going to be organic battlegrounds that appear out in the open world, and there's going to be raids against these epic bosses that are going to include a large portion of individuals a part of that event. And everything we're doing on the back end source code wise for UE4 is meant to achieve that particular goal. What UE4 allows us to do from a graphical fidelity standpoint is create a beautiful world on the front end, something that you're capable of seeing, and you can see in examples of the footage we've already shown of our game.
Oh, yeah.
Is when you couple the engine's versatility and capability with the amazing artists that we have on our team here, you come up with something that is beautiful. I mean, just truly beautiful, and that's
Fast too, man.
Yeah, and
it's
fast.
unreal how quick we can get stuff out.
I see what you did there.
I know.
The Baconator, right? Bacon. He's the
Baconator's here.
celeb-
Where is he?
He's
Where's
the
Baconator?
celebrity, right, on the studio.
Baconator's here.
He's busy working.
Yes.
Oh, he's busy like making stuff, right?
Yeah.
Bacon. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all right. Well, I had a million other questions, but I know your guys' time is limited, so I appreciate taking the time out. Keep it going. There's a lot of hungry MMO, old school guys like me and gals that want that old school experience, but with all the new technology and seeing MMOs progress, because I just truly haven't. I don't feel like they progressed. I feel like it's regressed and made it just simpler, taking a lot of power away from the gamer. So that's what got
massively single player experience.
Yeah, right. That's
So
true.
thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Delta.
man.
We appreciate
talking to
it,
you.
buddy.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. I think what we're going to do now is, if we have the video available, do we have that video available yet?
Almost, yeah, we can try something right now.
Okay, so what we're going to do while our guys are getting the video set up is we're going to show you something that myself, Jeff, Peter, and Matt, we were in the game a couple of days ago, and we wanted to demonstrate a system that we have in place that is really a unique system.
I think it's going to be really cool.
It's really
really
a unique
excited about it.
system. I know a lot of you have been asking questions about our monster coins that are available on the Kickstarter, and this video is going to show you what those monster coins do in game. It's a pre-alpha, obviously, example of this. So take that with it. I mean, it looks amazing for pre-alpha, in my opinion, but it's going to show you what these monster coins are all about, and then we're going to answer some questions that we received from the Reddit, I believe, our Reddit page.
From the Reddits.
From the Reddits on the internets. How are we doing with that? Almost. We're almost there.
Also, in the
I'm-
meantime, they want you to say "Make MMOs Great Again."
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Listen, when I set out to do this, that term wasn't necessarily, I don't think, out there yet. But but it is true that our objective here is to make MMORPGs great again, and that is exactly what we're going to do.
It's true.
Oh,
It is true.
they
I may
want
hate
to
it,
know
but it is true.
if they can have an honor nodachi, and I don't know what that means.
An honor dodachi, that's a term relating to a different game.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I didn't ask that.
How about, is there any other questions people are having in there on Twitch?
Apparently
we're
the
good?
Skype info is still up in the top right-hand corner if they can get that. Which
Oh, we want to kill the Skype window? Okay, yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to transition into this video. So there's a little bit of commentary that I added to it, and you're going to see this system, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about it. So
I haven't
enjoy.
heard the commentary yet.
Uh-oh. I wrote a script.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, for the video.
Nice.
Hey everyone, this is Stephen Sharif, Creative Director here at Intrepid Studios. I'm excited to debut an exciting new system that we have been working on in the game, something fresh to the MMO experience. We call it our Monster Coin system. You're about to see what the system looks like in its pre-alpha state, and I'd like to explain a little bit of how it works. In Ashes of Creation, a large portion of world events revolve around the environment reacting to the player. This means that as the players are exploring the world and developing civilization around them, the environment is responding to this encroachment by spawning dynamic events and creatures to attack those developing cities. These events occur in 3 different types: the Legion level, the Elite level, and the Epic level. A Legion level event would occur for nodes that exist between the 1st and 4th stages. This might include a horde of zombies rolling across the countryside, finding something or someone to feast on. These zombies would have a clear objective, and the players who wish to keep their advancements would need to be vigilant. Server messages will appear for players within regions of these dynamic events. An Elite level event would occur for nodes that exist between the 3rd and 6th stages. This level of event would include something along the lines of what you are going to see in this video: a dungeon level boss and his gang of cohorts coming out from the dens of their deep, dark delves. With clear objectives, these creatures will look to pillage the lands you have settled, destroy specific centers of activity, and leave destruction in their wake. Finally, the last event level is the Epic one. This level of event occurs randomly in the world, as well as in realms where nodes have advanced to the 5th and 6th stages of development, our city and metropolis stages. This would be a legendary boss, awoken from their long and deep slumber, a mighty dragon perhaps, whose sole purpose is to plunder, to punish those who have summoned his malice and hate. Now for the reveal. We have designed a system that allows the players to participate in these events as the monster. Our monster coins will let the player succumb to the darkness inside their soul and inhabit one of these monsters in the game. With clear objectives outlined during the event, your performance entitles you to unique cosmetics. And while no drop can be taken from your corpse should you fail, the defenders are rewarded by advancing their node and by gaining unique cosmetics themselves. Enjoy this small preview of pre-alpha footage with myself and some of my designers playing with the system. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join us on our Kickstarter.
Get over here. Get into my belly. Those horses are so much bigger, though.
Use the horses, not the people. Oh god.
Alright, only 4,900 more fireballs. We got them. You're like ants to me. Very brave.
Must protect the city.
About a mana.
Not a mana. And I'm dead.
I'll kill all of you. Last one standing.
I've respawned in the tavern.
I have pretty good armor. Oh, wow. You just exploded me. Yeah.
All right, we're good. So that was that was our monster coin system showing a level 2 monster coin. Excuse me, the elite coin. These, you want to explain a little bit about the monster coin system?
Okay, so basically, we've talked about events before. Hopefully you guys are familiar with that term. But when events happen, what we're going to do is allow people to play on the monster side, basically. You can spend a little bit of money, get a coin, and become part of the event on the monster side. So if a dragon goes and attacks a node, you could be that dragon.
So, I mean, what specifically this is all about is in our world, as you're developing the civilization out there and these nodes are progressing, there are events that are queued to respond to the player's interaction with their environment, to civilization encroaching on these areas where monsters dwell. And these events are going to show themselves. Let's say you develop a camp with other members of the server, and this camp is near a forest. And in that forest there is this long forgotten cemetery with bodies in the ground, and these zombies come up, and this event occurs with a clear objective for those AIs. They're going to be moving towards that camp to destroy certain structures, certain services, and kill certain NPCs that may exist in that camp. You as the player, if you have a monster coin in your inventory, you're going to be able, your spirit will inhabit the body of one of those zombies, and you're going to be playing as a zombie whose sole objective is to attack that camp, or to kill players in that area, or to kill NPCs and you know, mounts and whatnot. And this is going to relate to a progression in that specific module that allows you to earn very unique cosmetics that resemble the creatures you're playing. So you're going to stand out from other players as having been a participant of these events, and you'll be able to progress your effectiveness as a monster in these certain events depending on how often you play this ride. Now this scales up, and as nodes advance to further stages down the line, whether it become a village, a town, a city, or a metropolis, the scale of the monster coin goes up with it. So you'll have that Legion coin, the tier 1 monster coin relating to those small events with zombies and whatnot, and then you will have events that resemble the dungeon boss at the end of a dungeon coming out with a few of his cohorts, and that's the elite event at the 2nd monster coin level. And finally, the 3rd monster coin level is going to allow certain players to become that dragon that comes out of the mountain, as you said, or becomes that giant epic boss. Now, we understand that obviously there could be concerns about certain players gaming the system and potentially even letting players kill them and whatnot, but
never heard of such a thing before.
I know, that's crazy. But that's not going to be the case here, because drop tables will be disabled for this monster. It's going to be a clear objective for the citizens of that area and for the monsters themselves. And another thing that's important to note is that if you're the citizen of a node, you will not be eligible to play in an event for that specific region. You'll only be eligible to play in events that are not events centered around your node that you're a citizen of. So this is a pretty cool system that we really, I don't think, have ever seen before in another MMORPG, and it gives you a fresh perspective as the player to be able to participate in these events. And in addition, it gives the players who are playing against that environment to encounter, you know, non-AI reactive monsters.
Right. I think it's going to be a lot more interesting for an event to be driven by a player than by our AI.
Absolutely.
Our AI is going to be great,
Yes.
but a player is going to be better. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun on both sides.
Yes, 100%. So let us know how you feel about the system, what you guys think of it. We're pretty excited about it.
Yep.
And that's exactly how the Monster Coin system works. We'll be answering more questions about it on our forums, in our Discord. And I think actually we have a few more questions that we're willing to answer here on the Reddit. I think you put up a
Yep.
thing.
So we've got about 15 minutes left, and we have 10 questions that we've selected from the community.
All right.
As we mentioned before, there's a forum post, and we also put it up in Discord. If you want to ask a question to be answered live on the stream, we have an official Ashes of Creation subreddit. So go there, and the day before the stream, we will make an official thread. So go ahead and put your questions there, and then the top 10 with the most upvotes, we will go ahead and answer live on the stream.
Oh,
so without further ado, here are the top 10 questions.
All right.
The first one, I don't know how to pronounce this, so I apologize. GP Crone 824. When can we expect gameplay videos for the classes and get demonstrations of the combat system in action?
So we're going to be releasing those as we get the systems complete
Right.
and ready for prime time. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to see actually one on a rogue real soon.
Yeah, probably within the next week or so on the Rogue class.
Yeah, and just as we finish them, as we complete things, we're going to show it to you guys.
Yeah, part of our development and something that we're trying to do a bit differently than what's the norm in the industry, I think, is we're being as transparent, as open, open window development. Excuse me, sorry about that. An open window development into the project, and that comes with a grain of salt, understanding that we're showing you these things as they become developed, and they're not totally polished, and it's not representative of what the end result is going to look like at launch. But we want you to get a feeling of the direction.
Yeah.
So that's why we're putting these out as soon as possible.
Yeah, we're willing to hear all criticism,
Yep.
especially right now, because that allows us to correct course.
Absolutely.
As we go. So your feedback's super important, and
Yes.
keep giving it to us.
Yep.
All right, good question.
All right. So next question is from Ravix. What size will parties be in varying forms of content, such as dungeons, raids, sieges, caravans, etc.?
So we have 8 archetypes, and we're leaning towards a number of 8 when it comes to party size. And we're not firm on what the raid size is going to look like, but we're thinking it's going to hover around 40.
Yeah.
Probably 5 full parties.
Something like that. I mean, those are really specific numbers, and
Right.
those are going to change as we
Absolutely.
continue to tune content and stuff. So that's our target right now. It might change. So.
Yeah.
Oh, and then as far as open world stuff, I mean, a lot of that's going to be pretty sizable.
Fluid, and it's also
Yeah.
going to be very fluid. So
Really
like,
fluid.
it depends on. I mean, some of those open world events really depend on the specific occurrence and situation. I mean, we're building a game that's going to have a lot of moving parts when it comes to participation in certain events, and they could be very large or they could be small and close knit.
Yeah.
So I
Hey,
mean,
we're talking about things like big, huge pseudo parties.
Right.
That, everybody on one side has a common chat channel and
Yeah.
can target each other and that kind of stuff.
Cool. All right. And Belchoni asks, what are the plans for ensuring dynamic world events stay dynamic and engaging to players?
By making a lot of them. I mean, dynamic is always really hard, right? And the important thing is to have a large pouch that you can put all of these things in and make sure that they're surfaced in a way that's interesting and unique and that can fill all of that time. One of the reasons we're going as a subscription game is to promote that and to allow us to continue to create content as our game moves forward. We're probably going to go on a quarterly release date on that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
and a lot of these things have really long time horizons too. So there might be stuff that we put in right now that you guys don't experience for 2 years after launch. So we're going to have a lot of stuff like that in our back pockets.
Yep. Cool. All right. Matthias CB, who I hear really likes summoners, asks, can we have a deeper explanation regarding the taming and breeding artisan profession?
all right. So we want there to be a sense of uniqueness when it comes to our taming and husbandry artisanship. Something that players can really show their own personal flavor to, and how that taming is possible out in the open world. And it can result in some rare animals appearing in the open world that you just might happen upon, and that rare animal might not spawn available for another week or something, or even longer. But it's something that really allows for individuality and uniqueness to play a role in how rare these types of taming events are.
And also to promote exploration. We want people to be out in the world doing stuff and searching for these things. And because the landscape changes so often, there's going to be a lot of reasons to go out in the wilderness and try to find these rare things, because they're going to move around.
And exploration, not just in the sense of the world, while that's very important, but also exploration in these professions. Like, I don't want to give the players this concise book on, okay, this combination makes this, and this makes this makes this. I want players to be able to explore that theory crafting of what combinations produce what results.
Right.
And I think that's something that we're aiming for, not just in the husbandry profession or the taming, but just
But
in
across all of
everything.
them,
Everything, yeah.
Okay. A ZZ Buck Hunter asks, will the main events be on timers or will they be random?
They'll all be, well, not random.
They're not all going to be random. They're going to be a combination of the two.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's obviously going to be events that spawn as a result of certain type of development. So, in a sense, that's kind of timed, right? Because it's put behind a achievement in the game from the community and their development. But also at the same time, we don't ever want there to be stagnation. So, if events don't occur within a certain time period, they could randomly have a window that they can come up.
Yeah. There's going to be plenty of public events type
Yes.
of things that will be happening regardless of the status of the node. The goal is to try and keep the content interesting and percolating rather than just going across one static narrative.
Absolutely.
We want lots of things to be happening in the world, and so there's going to be a degree of randomness, a degree of purposefulness.
Right.
Hopefully you guys won't know what the purpose is as long as we don't have leaks. And we want those things to happen as the game moves forward.
Yeah.
Okay. And Double DZ99 asks, can you tell us the current plans? Oh, sorry, wrong one. Aeon Oron actually asks, if a guild attempts to kill an important world boss, how can different guilds stop them? And for example, how would PvP work in that regard? There was some concern because they mentioned the corruption system, and they want to make sure if they're trying to stop them, would they get flagged with that corruption?
Right. That's a really good question. That is something that we're still discussing, and that is still in development in that regard. I mean, we want there to be an opportunity for rivalry between different communities within the game to play itself out, and at the same time, we also want content to be achievable. A lot of games that have come out in the past, have weighed too heavily on one of those two sides.
Yeah.
And it's kind of...
It's important that we get it right.
Absolutely.
Otherwise the feel is really weird. Like if you've got a group fighting this mob and then it's at 1% health and then somebody comes in and wrecks it. I mean, it can be fun, but it needs to be fun in the right way.
Right.
Okay. And FreezeMan13 asks, how robust will the skill trees be? And if we can give them an approximate number of skills per tree and or
Nice.
an explanation of the variety to expect with the different builds.
So I think we answered a little bit about this when we were talking with Deltias Gaming. We don't have a hard number right now to tell you. We can definitely say that we're going more towards a skill option that's less than 30, obviously.
Yeah, much less than 30. It's still being worked out, right? We've got a huge number of abilities that we've got for each class right now, and we're in the process of paring it down and making sure that we create the identity for these classes that they need to have.
Yeah.
There's going to be plenty of options. That's a really strong goal of ours. We want different builds among the different archetypes. So there will be plenty of choice there. At the end of the day, how many skills that will end up being, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Okay. YTY Evil from the Blue Dawn Guild asks, will any other classes get stealth, or is that only going to be for rogues?
So stealth as a primary skill is going to be reserved for the rogue archetype.
Yeah.
However, if you have another archetype and you've taken a secondary class and you've chosen the rogue secondary class, there will be augment ability application to some of your primary existing skills.
Yeah, and that's as it stands now, of course.
Right.
That might change in the future, but for right now, we picture the rogue as being the master of stealth.
Absolutely. A good example of that would be, again, the fighter, excuse me, and that rush ability. When I said the fighter chose the secondary class as a mage and took the teleportation augment on the rush ability, if they had chosen a rogue, they could potentially have had a stealth ability occur when they're doing the rush. So something like that.
Okay, along with that, as a follow-up question, does picking a secondary class unlock additional spells, or do you retain your primary spells, or?
Secondary classes do not come with additional skills. They come with augments that change your primary class's skills.
And that can mean, the skill is completely different, right? And that just depends on the interaction between the primary and the secondary class.
Correct.
So take that with however you're going to take that.
I like it.
Yeah, we're not going to add abilities, but we're going to change abilities.
Right.
Okay. And the last question is from Skullhead51. Can we address what steps we've taken to ensure that networking and the engine itself can handle the large amount of players of an MMO inside of UE4?
So the steps we've taken in that regard is we're dedicating our engineers towards actually writing our own proprietary software
Backend,
for that.
yeah. I mean, we've got some of the best people in the industry, people who you're not going to find anywhere else. So they're doing an amazing job right now.
They are.
They are doing
As
an
we
amazing job.
speak.
But that is, just to address that, if it is a concern among anybody, I know that I've heard it when I've been out on the interwebs, people talking about it, is that is a forefront goal of ours, that we started this project with understanding that we're going to go with UE4, and it is a beautiful engine. It has a lot of out-of-the-box capability, but something that's inherent on us as a studios is going to be having that technological ability to include custom-written backend to accommodate our networking options.
Yeah, and MMO is a really specific kind of project, and it's going to require that kind of work anyways. So, you know, it's part of making it an MMO. You have to be prepared to build that back end, and that's what we're doing right now.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Seriously, it was a lot of fun.
We had a lot of fun, and we're going to be on again Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Welcome you to come on and sit with us again. We're going to have another host, I believe, and some different content we're going to show you. We're also going to take some more questions from the community. Hopefully this has been informative for everybody, and again, we cannot express enough just how grateful we are as a studios to see our project resonate with you guys. It means so much to us to know that our heart's in the right place, our project's in the right place, and it is something that everybody out there wants.
Yeah, thanks so much. Like, you've blown my mind. I still can't put it into words. And
Well,
I'm a writer.
Until next time, guys, thanks for joining in, and we'll see you on Friday.
Bye.
Are we still live?